these emerging franchisors are kind of on their own. There is not really this single source of truth for franchisees or prospective franchisees to go out and try to find the brand that's truly the best fit for them. And so we created this platform with all that in mind.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here. I'm your host. It's wonderful to have you back with us. And if this is your first time, welcome to the show. I know you're going to get a great deal of value out of joining us. And on today's show, I have the wonderful opportunity to speak with Jimmy St Louis. Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Hey, Rick, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Jimmy. Now, we're going to be talking, obviously, about your business that you founded and are CEO at, which is called Franchise123. And we're going to be talking about the franchise development industry and how Franchise123 is changing the way franchisors and franchisees connect. But before we do any of that, Jimmy, it's important for us to learn about the people behind the business, because I know that business fundamentally doesn't change all that much. So let's start off by finding out where home is for you.
Sure. Yep. I'm actually located in Tampa, Florida. So I've been all over the United States, but for the last 14 years, I've found my way here to Tampa and have had the chance to run a couple companies out of this area, and it's a pleasure to live here.
Tell us what drew you to the location.
So I actually came down here for work. Prior to living in Tampa, I was working up on Wall Street and as an investment banker and an analyst. And prior to that, I was actually playing professional football. So
playing professional football?
Yeah, American football.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I had the opportunity to play professional football, and then I was up in New York and got called down to Tampa to help start a medical spine surgery business, and was involved in that for about 6 years, from 2006 until 2012.
I think this is a great segue early in the piece to talk to a former sports person, because I know that discipline and mindset have a massive part to play in your success. So do you think any of that mindset has transferred into your business space?
Yeah, I think probably. It's been a bit inherent in me since as far back as I can remember. Mm-hmm. But, I think probably a lot of things you learn in sports, but you could probably learn in other areas of life as well. You learn about relationships, camaraderie, certainly the work ethic and the focus and your ability to properly segment and manage your time. I think you learn that over the course of your life as an athlete. It doesn't mean you don't learn those in other areas of your life, mm-hmm. but that was the path I chose.
Do you have any time for sports and hobbies still?
Well, I do. In fact, up until 2016, I was still competing competitively. I was training for the U.S. Olympic rowing team back in 2016 to try to make a run at the Rio Olympics, and stumbled upon that sport in late 2014 and made a hard run at it. And so competitive sports have always been just a part of who I am. Currently training for triathlons and always trying to find ways to optimize my health, and hopefully later, much later in life, my length of life will meet my quality of life.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that if we could, in terms of daily routines. What's it look like for you? Are you an early riser?
I'm an early riser. I think that there's people live by that. The early bird gets the worm. But for me in particular, I just like that quiet time. I'm also in bed late, and I just enjoy that quiet time where either late at night or early in the morning, where the world may still be sleeping, and you get that time to think about your plans for the day, get that time to catch up without a lot of noise around you. Mm-hmm. So I really just, the main reason I'm an early riser is really just to appreciate that quiet time. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I always love these windows into people's lives. When you talk about quiet time, for me, it's reflecting, just looking out the backyard. We've got a beautiful view here. I'm wondering what your quiet time looks like. Do you watch movies? Do you do the same things? What do you do?
For me, in the mornings, I like to wake up and read. I sometimes go in the sauna. There's meditation. this morning. My girlfriend and I went for a paddleboard. That was nice. It can be a variety of things. If I am alone when I'm traveling, I like to wake up, read a chapter of a book, answer some emails, and then after 5-10 minutes of meditation, I'll go and work out. And just people think I'm a little silly when I work out without headphones and without music, but I really just kind of get in the zone there and like to be left alone and just go work out. And just that's kind of the quiet time that helps me give the chance to think.
Yeah, thank you again. Now, I wonder if we, wind back time a little bit and we go back to your childhood growing up. Where was it that you grew up, and what can you remember, one fond memory of growing up in your childhood?
To me, my father was in the military and we traveled all over, but we spent 5 years in Seattle, Washington, the Pacific Northwest, and that to me was the most instrumental time of my life. It's kind of constantly a little bit foggy and rainy there a little bit, but doesn't ever lightning or thunder, so you have the chance to do anything and everything outside at all times. And I lived outside, climbing trees, playing sports, getting in a little bit of trouble as a kid, and it really just taught me just really the benefits and love for nature. And that to me was probably the most instrumental time of my life.
This is very important because I think it gives some good context about who you are as an individual, what your belief systems are and what you value in your life. And I wonder, I know that you're an educated individual. Do you still find time to take in more content, keep learning? How important is ongoing learning, do you think, in your life?
Sure. So I read about a book a week. By the 6-month mark for this year, I read about 35 books. And
wow.
I'm just constantly trying to look for new tools out there. So I'd say it's about half business books, which would include leadership, tactical, strategic, and then the other half is encompassed with either health and wellness or just books for pleasure and leisure. But I try to wake up in the morning and read and just try to gain a little bit of knowledge. To me, that's a bit of the fountain of youth.
Yes.
I think that you really kind of, when you stop having the ability to learn and make decisions for yourself, I think that's where life starts to take a turn. And so for me, that's exactly right. Yep.
So is there a common thread that you find through the non-fictional business books that you read, given that you read so many of them?
I think that they're all with the intention of trying to help somebody. I think the common thread may be a little bit different than what people would anticipate. To me, it's that there really is no magic formula. Everybody's looking for the 10 steps or the 2 steps or do these things and you're going to be better. I think systematically people like systems, same thing like with what we're doing with Franchise123. But the reality is in these books, the common thread is that there is no magic formula, but I do believe that if you can stick with a formula that works for you, for your personality and for who you are, then it does increase the likelihood of success. I'm reading a book called Noise right now, which I think is great for this conversation. It really talks about how noise in the environment really prevents your ability to make good and accurate decisions. We are flooded with so much information out there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to dissect what's right and wrong and what's up and down. And I think that a lot of that is because we're overloaded with information and we just don't really know where to go.
Yeah, that's some sage feedback. Thank you again. Now, you talked about systems, and we're going to be jumping into the core of the call in a short moment. But you talked about your father a little earlier, and I wonder, in your formative years growing up, were there any other people that influenced you into the man that you've become today?
Everybody. Either, I've got several siblings and mother, father, stepmother, stepfather, all of my best friends. I'm still very close with a few of my best friends. They're spread throughout the country. I had the chance to actually see them last weekend. It's a pretty special time.
Yes.
But I think that just relationships in general with good, honest people that really care about you is really just important. And that could be a best friend, a spouse, a family member. But to me, every one of them really played a significant part in my role and what I'm doing in life. But I think for whatever reason, I was just around people that were always very supportive and very excited about the next journey for me. And I think they would say have always had a tremendous amount of focus towards goals. And I've always had people around me who are willing to support me and help me out with those.
So just for a further bit of context, just share a little bit about your former corporate background and your experience.
Sure. So after I was in New York, I made my way down to Tampa, Florida, and was one of the original individuals who started a network of spine surgery centers here in Tampa, Florida. And we had a tremendous amount of success. We started that company with just 9 employees, and 5 years later, we had over 1,000 employees, and we were over a couple $100 million in revenue. And we really did some really interesting things there. We were the first company, at least as we can see, in healthcare to market direct to consumer with Google AdWords. And we were able to generate a tremendous amount of patients. We accompanied that by a uniquely positioned type of surgery that we were doing with tremendous results. And we started a network of surgery centers throughout the country. I was involved with that company for 5 years as the chief operating officer. And during an 18-month stint there, our CEO had some personal things going on. So I ran the company, and we were able to see some tremendous growth during that time. So after I sold my shares in that organization, I then moved on to start my own healthcare consulting company. I did that with the intention on finding the next opportunity in healthcare. And I was looking for what is that market where there's an unmet need as a part of healthcare that has not changed in decades, but patients are really in need. And we had this theme, kind of Get Paid to Watch the Movie, where we were engaging with a number of different organizations, bringing our business model into those organizations, and we were trying to see where it would be best fit. We were fortunate enough to find a couple companies we really liked. We acquired a portfolio of cellular-based therapy patents out of this group in Miami, and we moved them up to Tampa, Florida. We rebranded them to a regenerative medicine company, and we started a network of lung treatment centers utilizing your own cells to treat chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or other types of pulmonary disease like emphysema, et cetera. And we then were fortunate enough to partner with the Mayo Clinic, and we actually exited that company in 2013. And then the lung therapy company we exited in 2017.
Wow.
So I spent the last 13 years building out those companies.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing. That's a really great context. Now, why franchising? What happened there? How did this all come about?
So a bit of an interesting story. So I did mention earlier when I was spending time trying to make the United States rowing team, and I had entered a competition called the World Indoor Rowing Championships, the Crash Beast Sprints out in Boston, and had never really done the sport before. About 1,000 people there competing, and actually finished third. And I picked up the phone and called the head of high performance rowing for the U.S. rowing team and said, hey, I'd like to see if I could learn the sport, have some time now. I've had the chance to have a successful business career, and I have a little bit of time. And so they actually flew me out to Seattle, and then I spent some time learning how to row. And then I spent some time down at the Olympic Training Center, actually 18 months, and made a really hard run at the Olympics. And so that's back in 2016. I was at the Olympic Training Center, and a little bit older than the other guys there, about 8 to 10 years older than most of the guys there. But I had that strong sports background, the endurance running background, the football background. So I was able to have the physical fitness to perform. I just had to learn how to do the sport. So I spent a lot of time doing that. But while these guys were doing their off time, they're playing PlayStation, they're hanging out, I was really trying to tune my mind. And I was actually watching the news early morning. I was watching the Today Show, and they did this special on this brand called City Row. City Row is like an Orange Theory for rowing. It's a franchise. It's a boutique fitness franchise where you do circuit training and rowing, and it was hitting really big in New York City. And so I picked up the phone and called them and said, I would like to open up a handful of them in Florida and see if I can build out a big network of these boutique fitness rowing franchises there. They said, after we had the chance to talk about business background, said, I don't know that you're going to want to run some franchises. Why don't we introduce you to our managing partner? We may have some bigger opportunities for you. And so an individual named John Raji, he owns a company called Franworth, and he was with Domino's and Krispy Kreme's. He's a well-known franchise guy.
Yes.
He helped found Title Boxing. We became just very, very good friends. And he started to mentor me in the world of franchising. And as I spent more and more time in his operation, they're located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, I started to notice that there was a big unmet need in franchising. And I noticed that while they were addressing one part of the unmet need, which is there are individual people out there who, the next door neighbor who wants to franchise their bakery. They may not know the legalities around it. They may not be able to build up the operating systems. But what I noticed with these emerging brands was what they don't know how to do is they don't know how to sell.
Yep.
And so in order to expand your franchises, and it often takes anywhere from 50 to 100 units before you even become sufficient to support your operations with the revenues from your royalties, they aren't able to sell. So what they're going in one of two different ways. I'm looking at their books and saying, what is going on here with this significant consulting fee that you guys are paying for your emerging brands? And he said, well, that's what we're paying to brokers to sell for us so we can expand our brand. So, okay, help me understand this a little bit more. What I noticed was if you've got, say, City Row, for example, and their franchise fee is $50,000, well, that's the only money, when they sell a franchise, that's the only money that City Row is going to get until years down the road when they have successful operations generating enough revenue from royalties to help the franchisor stand up on their own 2 feet. So anywhere from 50 to 75% of that franchise fee was going back to the broker for their commissions.
Yeah.
And certainly the broker's working hard. They're paying for these leads. They're working hard to do this. But what I noticed was the only person who was winning really in that situation was the broker. The franchisor was stuck with less cash, and oftentimes the franchisee would invest in 3 to 5 units, but they would only open one, but they paid all that cash out. And so I said, this seems to be a problem. And what this really reminds me of is the real estate world. And before you had Zillow and Realtor.com, you had to go to an agent, you had to go to a broker, and you were really at the mercy of them. They were going to tell you what was in the market, which homes to look at, which homes not to look at, and you were a bit at their mercy. So that was problem one. Problem two was there's these things called lead portals that are out there where you may type in, hey, I want to buy a franchise. It directs you towards a portal, and you would start to click on brands, just any brand you like, any brand you recognized. As a consumer, you are clicking on that brand kind of without really knowing much about it. Mm-hmm. And then that brand pays that portal anywhere from $50 to $100 for that lead just for the chance to talk to you. Well, the problem is with the emerging brands, so they're either working with the brokers or they're paying money towards the portals. And so they're either paying out high commissions or they're getting really, really poorly qualified leads. In fact, they're only reaching about 1 out of 25 of those leads that they pay for from the portals. So they're spending a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to grow their own business. And we noticed, wow, these emerging franchisors are really just kind of on their own. is not really the single source of truth for franchisees or prospective franchisees to go out and try to find the brand that's truly the best fit for them. And so we said, you know what we need to do? We need to build out the Zillow of franchising.
Yeah.
We need to build this single source of truth where people can go and gather true, fair, accurate information, and then not only gather the information, but engage with those brands that may be a true good fit for them. And then let those brands, our platform's open interface, let those brands go on there and make their profile good and accurate and attractive. And so we created this platform with all that in mind. So, you know, this is kind of a long story for how we got into this.
No. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. Now, there's obviously two sides to this, franchisors, franchisees. Now, do you help the or prospective franchisors prior to coming on to your platform to see if they're a good fit, if they're ready to become franchisors? Or do you only deal with existing ones?
Sure. So, and for the listeners as well, just to clarify, so franchisor, that's the holding company.
Yes.
The franchisee, that's the person who's going to that company to say, I'd like to open up a location in my backyard.
That's franchising in a nutshell.
There you go. So we believe that there's a number of unmet needs that we're addressing with our platform. Mm-hmm. So the first is to give prospective franchisees all the information they need to make the right decision for themselves. The second is to give franchisors the chance to compete against groups they may not have had the chance to compete against before. You know, maybe that's an emerging bakery. It's a mobile-based van business to go and repair your roof, your garage. It may be a boutique fitness. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give the emerging brands a fair shake to compete against the big players. Yeah. And so we will often have the majority of the groups that are on there, although we have all 4,000 franchisors on our platform, the ones that are actively engaged are typically the emerging brands. They have anywhere from 10 to 100 units. And then I'd say about 15% of the phone calls we receive are of groups who are considering franchising. And they're saying, we want to franchise. We'd like to see what the market looks like. You think it's a good idea. And that has given us the idea that down the road, we do anticipate building out an industry standard suite of services where if you have someone next door who wants to franchise, say, their fitness concept, they can plug in and we'll be able to provide them with that back office infrastructure that they may have had to go out and find on their own, the credit card processing, the HR systems, the accounting systems. But for now, our main focus is to give prospective franchisees all the information they need to match with the best fit for them.
It really opens up the opportunity, whereas it may not have been available to them in the past, doesn't it? I sit here and I think to myself, what a wonderful platform. Now, in all of this, I wonder, and I'm always interested to find out where the names for these organizations come from. Where did you choose Franchise123? How did that come about?
So some of my partners, we were brainstorming, and their whole thought process was there's a lack of systemization within franchising, and that may seem ironic, but you've got the systems as a franchisor, but there really isn't a sophisticated, simple, and easy to understand system for individuals who want to buy a franchise. It's very complicated. It's very confusing. There's lots of note taking. There's a lot of distrust. So we said we want to help people understand that within 3 key decision points throughout the process, research, identify, and decide as our 3 steps, we wanted to help individuals understand that buying a franchise can indeed be fairly straightforward.
Now, this is what strikes me about this is Franchise123 could clearly be a global presence. Is that correct?
Certainly. The main thing is for us to understand the legalities that are more worldwide, but absolutely. We also believe that it's going to be a great platform for franchisees to resell their units, where if you have an individual who's got a boutique fitness center and they're ready to just retire or to move on, our database is so significant, we can say, okay, these are the number of leads that are looking to buy a boutique fitness center in your area, and here's who they're currently looking at. So we think that that transaction can be relatively straightforward, and it's oftentimes a much easier thought process to decide on what we would call a going concern, as opposed to a new business. And so we think that the resale market worldwide will be pretty significant for us.
So what's been happening recently, given the nature of the world we're living in at the moment? Has there been an uptick in the interest in franchisees coming through?
So when you look at franchising, you really touch all aspects of business. You could be thinking about a McDonald's, or you could be thinking about investing in a van that's going to go and make your garage look nicer, right? So kind of all ends of the spectrum. What we're seeing within franchising right now is, yes, the number of franchise transactions that are taking place are actually increasing, but we're seeing them increase in some specific areas. One, a lot of remote-based work. So we're seeing there's accounting system franchises out there. We're seeing that there are home improvement franchises. So those, everybody's sitting at home. They want their home and their home office to look nice. So people are really investing a lot of time into that as well. So we are seeing certain sectors of the industry, really those businesses that could have been run remotely, the non-bricks and mortar ones, that's when we're starting to see the franchises begin to emerge.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, well, how do I get involved? What are the technological steps that I have to go through? Because clearly you're in an innovative space, you're a disruptor, and you're going to be changing this market. So there must be some sort of a different approach to the way in which you're connecting people.
Sure. So when you are interested in franchising or just want to learn a little bit more about it, you just go to franchise123.com, and in just a couple quick steps, you fill out some information. We have a little algorithm that begins to match you up with the best brands for you. It's kind of an intuitive, fun thing to watch. It starts at 4,100 brands, and as you click on different options that are important to you, you see that number start to shrink down to just less than 100. And now you've started to get some clarity as to what may be a good fit for you. That whole process takes about 3 minutes.
3 minutes
for us, that's 3 minutes, and they're ready to go. Now, the more kind of complex side of things is on the franchisor side. They can go on, they can upload their presentations. In a matter of a couple minutes, they can build out their own microsites on Franchise123. So now they'll have their own franchise development website. They can upload scripts, and we are engaged with an AI software that creates video presentations with sales scripts that they may have. There's a multitude of services for the franchisor to go on to really make their brand pop. And the algorithm on our site is set up in a way in which the more traffic and the larger the audience that goes towards their brand is, the more front and center they will be. It's similar to, say, like a Google algorithm as well.
Yeah. So given the nature of business being people connecting with people and working with others, do you have human support services to help those who might need it?
So if you are on there and you're interested in engaging with the brand, those brands that have signed up with us, they have either asked us to provide them with the sales support, or they may have built out their own sales infrastructure. You as the individual won't really notice the difference. If you go and you click on a brand that has their own sales team, when you engage, you will schedule a call through the same exact software that you would if you were scheduling a call with us. So it's very straightforward, very simple. But the short answer is yes, we have a sales team who will work with you directly to help point you towards the right brand. And the beauty of Franchise123 versus working within, say, a franchise consulting network or a broker network is we want to help pair you up with the brand that truly is the best fit for you. And we have access to all 4,000 of those brands, and we will help guide you to the one we think is the best fit for you. There's not really a dog in the fight for us. We just want to see a high level of success for the franchisees and to instill the confidence that they're making the right decision.
Thank you again for the feedback, Jimmy. Now, I'm looking at your website and it's wonderful. It's very clear, very easy to understand, which I think is important. But given the nature of the mobile technology that we all use today, are there other ways for people to be able to access this information?
Sure. So we do have a mobile app. You can go just type in franchise123.com. It's more of what the tech world would call an MVP or a minimum viable product at this point. Mm-hmm. When you go on to, you download that app, you will answer a series of questions. That algorithm will then pair you up with about 100 or so options. And then similar to like a dating app, we've created a dating app for business. Mm-hmm. You'll swipe left or right based upon if you don't like it or you do like it. And when you do like it, then you would then be directed towards the web platform to engage with the brand. But on your mobile device, you can research and you can start to identify ones that may be the best fit for you. And then ultimately, we plan on migrating our full suite of services over to a mobile version here within the next 6 months.
Very exciting times. Lots to come in the next 12 to 18 months, I'm sure, Jimmy. Thank you very much for sharing. Now, if you are interested in learning more about Franchise123, the website's very easy to remember. It's franchise123.com. There's obviously links to Google Play and the App Store to download the app directly. Make sure you check it out. It's well worthwhile. This will give you a great start into the franchising space. And with all that being said, Jimmy, thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business Show today.
Great. Thank you, Rick, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.